Welcome to the OTP. Glad to have you with us from our St. Thomas Sports Park radio studio and streaming everywhere, right? That's correct.
We're all over the place.
We're at TitansOnline.com and all the Titans social media channels. You can check us out. Jim Wyatt is here, the great one. Welcome.
I'm glad to be here. This is going to be fun, doing this all season.
We're glad to have you with us. Amie Wells, as usual.
Always.
As always.
Can't shake me now.
Thank you. What do you think?
I love it.
We're on. People can see us.
I'm watching you on my computer do this. It's
Are you
like
really?
Inception.
That's a little strange.
No, it's cool.
By the way, sorry that we started a little bit late. It is Titan Thursday at Dunkin' Donut. By the way, if you're a Dunkin' Donuts Perks member, you can get this coffee with the Titan logo for $1, which is fantastic. I had to go back out and get another donut in the other studio, so they had to wait for me. I apologize, but the donuts are delicious.
What kind of coffee you got there?
It's just a dark roast.
Okay.
I love the dark roast with a little flavor.
Little flavor?
I like some flavor. They do good
that.
stuff. All right, you need it on Thursday. You need Dunkin' Donuts coffee, a medium for $1 if you're a Dunkin' Donuts Perks member. That's a good thing because it's game week. It is game week, people.
Woo-hoo! We
Finally
made
here.
it.
Yeah,
We're
it's been a
here.
long road to get here, but this team's been rebuilt during the offseason, a new coaching staff, a new roster. Certainly made it through training camp, and now I think everybody's ready to go.
Well, fourth straight year the Titans have played the Dolphins. 2015. Remember this thriller? Marcus Mariota sacked 6 times as Dan Campbell, the interim coach and the Miami Dolphins, come to Nashville and beat the Titans 38-10. I would contend that was the beginning of the end for Ken Wisenhunt because Marcus Mariota was sacked 6 times in that game.
Got hit low one time, too. I
He
think it
sure
drew a
did.
fine.
Yeah.
Or did it draw a fine?
I don't know, but I know he got hit often and early, and the Dolphins brought it all day long. Titans would lose the next week in a game against Atlanta 10-7, and then the following week the defeat at Houston, and then the next day the Titans made the coaching change.
Yeah. That was
After their 6th straight loss. That loss was their 4th straight.
That was a tough couple of weeks.
Yes, it was. 2016, maybe the high moment of all high moments for exotic smash mouth under Mike Mularkey. Titans go to Miami, win 30-17, rush 41 times for 235 yards. Mariota, 7 rushes, 60 yards, 3 touchdown passes in the game, passer rating of 117.5. First real big performance for Derrick Henry, too. He had 7 carries for 54 yards. That was a good day outside of Jakeem Grant's punt return for a touchdown.
I remember that day well, and certainly sandwiched in between a couple of not-so-great memories against the Dolphins because I know the next one you're getting to is not going to be pretty.
Yeah, don't jump ahead. Last year.
Oh.
I mean, this was about as bad as it could have been because here's the thing. Miami wins the game 16-10. Miami gained 178 yards in the game. Miami won an NFL football game and scored 16 points, gaining 178 yards. They sacked Matt Castle 6 times. The Titans only rushed for 69 yards. The Titans lost a long touchdown pass to Delaney Walker on an offensive pass interference call. Then there was the famous Kiko Alonso sack, which was nobody considered a sack except for Rashad Jones, who picked up the bouncing ball, went into the end zone, and finally the officials, who didn't even follow him to the end zone, who weren't there, ruled it a touchdown. And upon further review, they upheld it. The Dolphins' first 10 points came directly off turnovers, but this was one of their 2 touchdowns on the day.
It was an ugly game. They were booing Jay Cutler down there, and that was before Barry Cavallari started airing on television. So that was a terrible game.
I think he's better on Barry Cavallari than he was. I mean, he threw for 92 yards. Titans just 2 of 13 on third downs.
rewatched some of that game this morning, and I got frustrated. I'm feisty this morning just because I went back to watch that game.
So do we have a chance to see the Dolphins in 2019?
Do we?
Yes.
Really?
As a matter of fact, could be at home. The Titans will play the like place finisher from the AFC East at home next year.
Huh.
So the Dolphins could be coming here for a fifth straight year if they finish in the same spot in the AFC East that the Titans do in the AFC South.
So you think the Dolphins will win the division?
Nice. Look at Jim
Well
Wyatt.
done, Jim Wyatt. That was nice.
Coming out with early optimism. Home schedule next year. Kansas City.
Okay.
Los Angeles Chargers. New Orleans Saints. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A team from the AFC East, and then the division opponents. Have you wondered where we travel next year?
Oh, well, now I am.
Denver.
Denver's good.
Atlanta.
Atlanta's good.
Carolina.
Oh, that'll be fun.
An AFC North city.
Okay.
Okay. And Oakland.
Oh, Oakland. That trip.
Oakland, not Las Vegas.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But unless they get into it with Las Vegas, the Oakland folks are being sued. The Raiders are being sued right now. And so there's talk that they might leave Oakland early.
Oh,
love to be
please.
in the first season in Vegas.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if you guys have ever tried walking on Oakland's field
Yes.
in heels.
Well, no, not in heels.
Well, not in heels, but
No.
just walking on it at all. It's tricky.
Well,
It's not easy.
It's a whole thing.
Press box. Yeah, how's that booth in the
It's
Coliseum?
fantastic. It is totally fantastic. All right. So our first chance on the OTP to talk roster. I'll start with Amie Wells. Biggest surprise on this roster, Amie Wells, to Amie Wells.
I think my biggest surprise was Anthony Ferkser. He was someone that early we were talking about in training camp in the preseason. I was like, oh, it's nice this guy's out here. He kind of has a funny last name. He went to Harvard. That's cool. As we watched him, he stood out more and more and more, but there was still the question, how many tight ends is this team going to carry? What is this roster going to end up looking like? And Anthony Ferkser makes a name for himself, ends up making the roster, and it surprised me that the team wanted to carry 4 tight ends.
And I'm glad you said Ferkser because I'm going to say Cam Batson. I'm taking it back the same way you did with Ferkser. I think when you watch things happen during the course of camp, it's not as much a surprise to you because Ferkser earned it and he was good all the way through. But at the beginning, who would have thought a guy like that from Harvard would come in here and make the team? The same way for Cam Batson. I mean, when I looked at the undrafted class during the offseason, talked about Jordan Vesey a lot, talked about Deontay Burnett a lot, talked about Devin Ross a lot. Cam Batson was the least talked about guy of all those undrafted receivers, but he kept making plays, kept putting himself in contention, did some things well in the return game. And then when camp ended, he was one of the guys that was standing out among that group. So turns out he gets the call, goes to John Robinson's office, gets the news. He thought he was cut. He was getting his iPad out to give it back to him. He was as surprised as anybody that he made the team, bowed his head, broke down, and started saying a prayer. And John Robinson says the first time anybody's done that in his office, he bowed his head and prayed with them. His prayers were answered and certainly ends up being a surprise, but he definitely earned it.
Has anybody ever had a prayer answered that quickly?
That's pretty impressive.
He finishes and he says, "You made the team. How about that?"
And he said you made the team, and he immediately bowed his head and started praying
again. Yeah.
So
that's great. Gaze, and that, by the way, great story on that, Jim Wyatt at TitansOnline.com. All kidding aside, great story. If that one didn't make your arms tingle and the hair stand up on the back of your neck, that was really awesome.
I appreciate it. I mean, everybody loves a good underdog story,
Sure.
A success story, a guy like that who has a little humility about him. He's not the most outspoken guy. He's kind of kept in his lane. And in the same way as Darius Jennings, another guy who, good for him, who made this roster after battling so much during the course of his career. But those stories are fun to do.
Mine is Aaron Stinney.
Really?
I didn't. I mean, I should have known. Like Batson, I should have gotten Batson, and I didn't when they started him at receiver in the last preseason game. Notice they started Ross, and they started Batson, which should have been our hint. After all these years, I should pick up on stuff like that, and I didn't get it. So I was surprised by Batson, but Stinney is the one that got me because I thought they would go with a 9th offensive lineman due to the fact that we were getting the hint strongly that they were going to keep Conklin on the active roster so he could get out and do things in practice. With that being the case, you felt like they had to keep an extra lineman up. I thought it would be one of the veterans, maybe Suafilo, who was on the roster, maybe Wickman, maybe Martz. So I didn't think it would be Stinney, but that's obvious what they think of Stinney. We knew they were high on him, and I think they think he, like Levin, has a real future.
Yeah, and I like what I've seen from him. And he, you look at the numbers at those positions, and you do the math, and you wonder how many you're going to keep. And then when I did it, and I didn't have him in my final group. I think of all the guys, I agree that he ends up being a big surprise on cut-down day. Because I'll admit, I mean, it's harder to judge the offensive lineman for me because of what happens in the trenches. And he definitely kept himself in good standing with the GM and the coaching staff all the way through.
Tons of flexibility in this roster because, next week veteran salaries are not guaranteed. They are guaranteed only week to week if they're on the roster. And so that being the case, there will be a lot of veterans signed with teams. Teams will take a rookie, dump him, and go ahead and bring in a veteran at that point because they also know with the number of veterans that end up getting cut or the number of rookies that end up getting cut, you've got a great shot to get those guys back to practice squad because everybody's going to be grabbing veterans. They're not going to be trying to, swipe your young players as much. So I think you'll see that happen. The other thing, too, is when Conklin is ready to go, then the Titans have the ability to just carry 8 offensive linemen again. So, and the fact, too, they just carry 3 running backs. They just carry 4 tight ends. And we thought, I wouldn't think they'd go 5. But the 2 quarterbacks and the 3 running backs, to me, is an area of flexibility because I don't know that they'll stay with 11 linebackers the whole year. Do you, Jim?
I don't, and I think because of the injuries at that position that I know we're going to get to later, I think that forces you to do that. So I'm with you, and I would expect across the league we're going to see some tinkering on rosters next week.
How much of putting a roster together from this point and going forward is less talent-based and more need-based and money-based?
Well, for the Titans, it's not going to be money-based because they're in great shape. But you don't want to – I think for this week, it's a good question. I think for this week it's completely different because I think it's totally need-based for week 1 in the Titans' case. Because as we look at the injury report, and that moves us to our next segment, Jack Conklin, not going to be part of things. And then Harold Landry, Derek Morgan, and Rashawn Evans, those 4 guys – did not practice yesterday fully. And then Kendrick Lewis was not out there at all, safety Kendrick Lewis. So the Titans have 5 guys on the injury list. There's a possibility, we don't know this yet, but it's just Thursday morning, there's a possibility that all 5 are out. So if that's the case, then that's 5 of your 7 inactives. So you have built the rest of the roster understanding that you don't have choices potentially because guys are automatically out. The Dolphins, on the other hand, are going to have 6 choices because it looks like Devontae Parker is out. Armando Seguro, the great writer, wrote yesterday that Devontae Parker is out. The Dolphins didn't confirm it, but they sure didn't deny it. Parker has a broken middle finger, which I'm not going to demonstrate.
We're live now.
We're live on video. That's right. A nod to the new technology. That he has the broken middle finger, so he's out. So the Dolphins have flexibility. The Titans, you would think from the injury report, don't have as much flexibility. They certainly don't.
I agree. And I think your hope, looking at this injury report, is that you get one of those backers in the rotation where you can rotate a little bit more instead of having one guy play a significant number of snaps. That's one thing I look back to these training camp pressers right at the very beginning. And Brian Arakpo was talking about how you can get more bang for your buck playing 20, 25 plays opposed to playing 60, 70. And that certainly is the hope moving forward. But as we look at things now, and you see Derek Morgan on this injury report, you see Harold Landry in this injury report, you look at who's left standing, it's not the deep group is not that deep. So you hope you can get one of those 2 guys back in the rotation to give you
something.
15, 20 snaps maybe.
Well, because I can come up with on this roster an extra inactive to where you could, let's say it's Morgan. Let's say Morgan can give you 20 snaps. I can get you an extra inactive that they wouldn't need in this ball game because of how the roster is structured, to where you could get Derek Morgan and have him be up even if you know he's not going to be able to play that much. Because right now, the Titans, I mean, Finch is up. He's a rookie free agent that made the team, Sharif Finch, but he's been dinged some. He's missed some time. You have Arakpo, who's back, and that's great, but Arakpo missed a month. You have Aaron Wallace, who has had a good camp, but, I mean, unfortunately, Aaron Wallace has had injury problems in his career. And then you got the new guy, Kamale Correa. So if you're able to get 20 to 25 snaps from Derek Morgan, your best run defender at outside linebacker, I mean, I'd take it right now.
I would too, yeah, and certainly you'd rather have him, than Landry. I think at this point, coming off of a little bit of rust and dealing with an ankle injury, that's probably going to keep him from being as explosive as he would like to be. I think that's the hope, and we'll have to just see how things go as the practice week progresses.
Here's one for you: Kamale Correa may start.
Whoa!
I mean, think about that. The guy's been here.
Got here
9 days.
Yeah, a week and a half.
Yeah,
we got here Tuesday night a week ago.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything really Wednesday, didn't play on Thursday. So it essentially started working on the field with this team Friday.
Wow.
Into the weekend. And, I mean, there's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but when you look at the overall numbers, he may have to start.
Well, that's why John Robinson felt like he had to make a move.
Right.
I mean, not only because of need at that position, but also because of a guy that he thought was very talented and showed some good signs early in the preseason. He can do a couple of different things, playing inside and outside. He's got familiarity with Dean Pease from being with him in Baltimore. So a lot of things came into play that made him a good fit right at the beginning. I wrote a story about him that's posted on Titans Online too for a little bit more, and I know you've talked to him yesterday as well. So he finds himself in the middle of kind of the spotlight, and well-timed getting a guy like that.
You gave us a good lead-in right there as we move along with the OTP. Let's take a look and listen at yesterday's talk in the locker room with Kamale Correa, new outside linebacker. Kamale, with the numbers that the Titans have right now, it really looks like you're going to have a real chance to play over 80% of the snaps come Sunday. Are you both physically and mentally confident that you're ready to do that?
Yeah, man, there's a great group of guys. There's a great coaching staff here to get me ready for the game. It is unfortunate that we have some guys dinged up and stuff, but it's my job to come in here, to do my role, and to do what's asking me to help this team win a ball game. So I'm just going to put my best foot forward, and whether that's in base personnel, whether that's in penny personnel, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to give it my best every single play.
How different is the scheme from Baltimore with Dean Pease to Tennessee with Dean Pease?
Not very much different. There's a few nuances here and there that they've added, but for the most part, it's pretty similar. So it's not as difficult as say somebody else coming in and just learning a whole new scheme. So I do have that on the upside for me. But again, we still have a couple more days, to get ready for the game, and man, just got to go in day by day and just keep learning and keep getting better.
Finally, what's the biggest overall challenge of moving teams right at the end of camp?
The biggest challenge for me is just to show these guys why I'm here. Just like to show my teammates, hey, I'm here to play football. I can do my role, I can do my job, and shoot, man, I'm here to fly around with you guys, here to win some ball games. So, we just got to build that chemistry within the first couple weeks here, and then, I think it should all be all right.
Mike, that was a solid interview with Kamale Correa, but now that everyone can see what we were just seeing,
yes,
the microphone that you were using was so Bob Barker-esque, I couldn't even listen to what was happening. It was too much for me.
So do you want the car or the dishwasher?
Always the car. Always go for the car.
Always the car. Who goes for the dishwasher?
Yeah, always go for the car. Jim, you wrote a story about Correa and his jersey number. Please tell everyone the reason that his number is 44.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny story because he showed up at with 46 for the Thursday night game.
Which is a bad number.
so he ends up in 44, and I guess I could have done the math myself, but he did it for me. So I asked him, is there any significance behind the number 44? He said, well, I wore number 8 at Boise.
Okay.
Which that number is obviously taken here by his high school
and he couldn't wear it in the pros anyway.
Yeah, so he said, well, 4 plus 4 equals 8. So I'm going with 44.
Oh, no.
Which is kind of
seriously?
Yes. So, and he even admitted himself, I kind of chuckled when he said it, but he said it's kind of funny how things work out. You got Marcus, who wears number 8 here, was my high school teammate over in Honolulu at St. Louis School, and here I am in 44 because 4 plus 4 equals 8. So pretty funny story behind the number.
I like it. I think that's so clever.
Come on.
It's simple yet effective.
I know, but
you know,
I mean, would you admit that?
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
absolutely,
no.
I would.
And in the course of that interview, he also gave a shout out to a former Titan Pro Bowler who's now a real estate agent who's helping him find a house in town.
Mark Mariani,
That's
friend
right.
of the podcast.
Yeah. So Mark Mariani got a shout out
right.
from Kamale.
Good stuff, Mark Mariani. That's a good one right there. No doubt about it. All right, let's talk offensive linemen.
Let's talk about them.
So Jack Conklin, not going to be at right tackle.
Doesn't look like it.
It's going to be a guy who played a lot in the 2017 game a year ago at left tackle, and that's Dennis Kelly. If you remember that game, Taylor Lewan went out, and so Dennis had to come in at left tackle. He'll play right tackle in this game. He's got a battle against Cameron Wake, and on the other side, it's Robert Quinn against Taylor Lewan, and that's something. That's over 150 career sacks right there combined.
And he's something else too. He's
which one?
Whoever you were just
Wake
saying
or
about.
Quinn?
Quinn.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
No, Robert Quinn. He's a big guy. He's fast. And holy smokes, he can bend his body so that he is parallel to the ground, and he just comes around that outside. Holy smokes. Good luck, Taylor.
You got to get that's where you got to get on these guys. I mean, that's the thing is you can't fall behind. That allows them to kind of pin their ears back and come after you. I think if it ends up being Kelly, I mean, do we think that Kelly, the trade, Dora Green Beckham for Dennis Kelly trade was a good
trade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing.
Where is DGB right now?
Springfield,
Missouri. He's probably listening to OTP
Yep.
Somewhere up in Missouri. So
shout out.
If he were here, it would be DGB on the OTP.
Oh, that would be fun.
The kids love the acronyms.
Man,
They love them.
that's a lot of letters.
Yes, it would.
Go ahead with your
and
thought.
that would be A-OK with me.
A-OK.
But I do think that
well done.
I do think that Kelly, I mean, working throughout
you like the dad
offseason,
humor in here?
I
I got some dad jokes. I follow dad jokes on Instagram. If you don't do it already, I
Thank
get a
you.
lot of good material on
Thank
there.
you. We both do.
So Dennis Kelly's ready to go and looks the part. I mean, he's a big guy. He's got good athleticism. He's got good chemistry with these guys. Eventually, Jack Conklin is going to return to this lineup, but the team's in good hands, certainly with Dennis Kelly. And we've watched Jack Conklin in uniform this week. We've seen him do some things with Mike Vrabel on the practice field. I've seen more movement from him than I've seen at any point during this offseason, which I didn't see a lot because he was on PUP, but I watched him kind of do some conditioning stuff in his rehab. But if he's not able to go, Dennis Kelly's certainly up for the challenge.
And Kelly, having had the 6 weeks to get ready as the starter, taking every first-team rep, I mean, it's huge. But back to Conklin for a second. I mean, his training, I mean, he's not ready to play football. I get that. But his overall training has been unreal. He is in phenomenal physical shape. We were marveling at the way he has transformed his physique since he got here. And he was this big dude, naturally strong, a great basketball player, a very natural athlete. And now, I mean, he weighs as much as he did, I think, but he is so trim. And, I mean, there's a look. That's from yesterday. The guy absolutely looks fantastic in his work, moving around, and I don't think it'll take him long when he's cleared to get back at it. He is able to do some conditioning things in some individual period right now.
You and I were talking a little bit about this yesterday. Both of the tackles on this Titans team are some of the most in shape athletic-looking offensive lineman in the league, I think.
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's down, unless he's put some weight on since he held a football camp over the offseason. He said at that point he was down 10 pounds, but stronger than he'd ever been because he spent so much time in the weight room. So his work in the weight room, his work looking at a bunch of film when he had time to do it while other guys were practicing should help him be ready. You know, it's funny you think Amie mentioned about the just physical makeup of some of these guys. You'll look back to some of the tackles of the past here. You know, I don't care whether it's John Runyon and Brad Hopkins was a great athlete when he played here. But
Brad Hopkins was so interesting because he had to fight so hard to keep weight on. And Brad Hopkins looks fantastic now. I mean, he is in great shape. But, I mean, his natural body weight was probably 260 pounds as a human, whereas a Bruce Matthews was really as big as what he was.
Right.
And I think that's why he never got hurt or rarely got hurt because that's how he was. Jack Conklin is naturally a big man, but now he's so much slimmer and trimmer. And every time I've walked by the weight room on my way to the cafeteria, I've seen Jack Conklin working out.
With your Dunkin' Donuts.
With my Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Hang on.
Interesting mix here.
Yes.
Good old St. Thomas Sports Park.
Well, we're getting all the sponsors in.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait till later when the old smoky moonshine gets here.
Oh.
But you said as you were walking eating your donuts going through the weight room,
he
going to
was
the cafeteria.
doing, I mean, it was all cardiovascular and kettlebell and all this crazy stuff that you expect littler guys to be doing. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, he really is some kind of athlete to watch just work. But it was very obvious that a lot of what he was working on was the total conditioning and not just the knee, because guys used to go in, and we used to see it, you know, they do 3 sets of 8 or something on the bench or the shoulder press or squats or whatever, and it was heavy weights and low reps. And now it's very much designed toward condition. Conklin takes that seriously. And I'll tell you what else is interesting. Vrabel's practices are designed towards condition.
I was going to say that.
They do more conditioning in a Vrabel practice than any that I've seen since I've been here. And I'm not just talking about running at the end of practice. I'm talking about how he structures the periods in everything that he does.
I mean, they're moving from the time they go out there. They do walkthrough, goes right into stretch. They come shooting out into individual drills. They're running to each thing. Vrabel's running to each thing. He leads the charge. That guy's in shape.
He is in shape. But, and he's big.
Yeah, he is. But, I mean, it's nonstop movement from the time practice starts to the time they're done running at the end. It's got to be exhausting, but, man, the condition those guys are going to be in once the season starts and they're playing in that heat for the first couple of games, I think it's going to be beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, I agree, and you're right. I mean, the minute they come out the door and they come through that kind of
you take a picture of them every day.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a different angle every time. Today I might just lay down on the ground and let them kind of get the shot looking up.
We could give you a boost.
Yeah,
that's
what somebody mentioned last night, that maybe get a drone footage of them coming out. So got to find something.
Yeah, the coaches would love that. Yeah. They'd love a drone flying around the field. They wouldn't notice that at all.
And they probably love me laying down and then let Mariota come and triple over me coming out the door. And that wouldn't be a good look. But these guys come sprinting out the door, and sometimes Vrabel will see a guy that's not sprinting out the door, and he'll call him out and say, "Hey, step it up. We're running out here." And I think it's specifically on Conklin, and he is in great shape. And when I think back to David Stewart years back and what a mauler he was, and look at Conklin just to see how his body type is. I mean, I think some of it is because of the way the league has changed, but also some of what Conklin had in mind when he lost some weight and tried to make himself a little bit better from a movement standpoint was done to be a better fit in this offense, which is going to require those guys to have a little bit more movement.
They're going to run.
Yeah, so I think it's going to pay off, not only for the guys in the starting lineup this week, but for everybody going toward the season.
The video OTP, Amie Wells is in charge of the OTP now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
And so she gets her own segment.
I do.
Amie Wells Wonders.
Oh, no.
This is the segment where she gets to wonder about something. This week you wonder about Luke Falk.
I do wonder about Luke Falk.
Luke
and
Falk,
like
former Titans draft pick at number 199, cut instead of being brought back to the practice squad, which I think the Titans wanted to do for sure.
Yes.
He ends up signing on the active roster in Miami, where they already have not only the returning Ryan Tannehill, David Fales, Brock Osweiler. They now have a fourth quarterback, Luke Falk. So Amie Wells wonders what?
I wonder, is Luke Falk a mole?
I think that's part of what he's doing down there.
He's a spy.
We're going to know by Monday or Tuesday of next week when they've got a decision to make on whether they carry 4 quarterbacks for the second week in a row, which is going to be extremely hard to do if you ask me.
Sure.
So how much you can get out of them, though, I'm a little bit skeptical about that. I talked to Armando Salguero, who you gave a good shout-out to earlier, who's one of the best in the business and
He
does
is
a great
one of the
job.
best in the business.
Miami, and he shoots it straight, too. I mean, he
He
doesn't beat
does.
around the bush. And he said, hey, will they ask him those questions? Certainly he expects them to. This is a new offense, some new terminology. Can they get some cadence information out of them? Probably so. Can they get some other, behind-the-scenes stuff out of them? Yes, but still, it's going to boil down to, can they cover Corey Davis? Can they handle Derrick Henry? Can they handle Deion Lewis out of the backfield? Can Marcus Mariota thread the needle on some of these throws? I mean, they're still going to have to stop the Titans' offense, but in the way the league is now, you're looking for any little tidbit you can get. And I thought it was interesting that they're the only team in the league to claim him, and it happens to be during Titans week.
Yeah, see, I think they're going to get their $28,235 worth for sure. That's a weekly salary for a rookie this year in the NFL. $480 for the year, so that's $28,235. I don't want to take anything away from Luke Falk. I think Luke Falk has a chance to play in this league.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he's ready to be on an active roster, but I think he's got a real chance. He's a really good guy. And I think everybody is pleased for him to have this opportunity who got a chance to spend any time with him. But they would be crazy if they did not ask him all of those questions about an offense that I think they're saying openly we don't know anything about.
Right.
I think if you're the Dolphins, you're scared of what you're going to see from the Titans because they have been so vanilla in the preseason to the extent that I think that's an insult to the term vanilla.
Oh, well, okay.
I think
yeah.
it is.
It was less than vanilla.
It's less than vanilla.
It was not even a flavor.
I don't think that they have any idea what they're going to see, and so they're doing their due diligence. And I think Matt Burke's coming after the Titans, period. I think that's what Matt Burke's going to do.
Well, and you would have to think, especially with it being such an affordable thing to do.
$28,235.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's very
cheap.
affordable.
Yeah,
I
in terms
I
of
spend
NFL
that on a
money.
weekend night. Yeah.
That's what he spends on donuts every week. But this has to happen a lot.
Sure. Well, I mean, the Titans have certainly brought guys in at different points, and there's never been anybody signed here from Indianapolis.
Right. It's true.
I mean, that never happened when Peyton Manning was. I mean, sure. I mean, it's part of the business, and you've got to make the most of whatever opportunity you have right now. If you're Luke Falk.
Yeah, but you feel a little bit funny. I mean, that's got to be weird. You sit here,
Sure
you're
it
with
is.
the team all the way through the off season, and then you get down there and they're asking you those questions. If they are asking them those questions, I know Adam Gase said yesterday in a conference call with reporters here that first time he had talked to Luke Falk was on Wednesday morning. What he didn't say is he stayed in his spare bedroom last night. Probably.
He didn't say no other member of the staff.
That's true.
He was in with the defensive staff for all of Tuesday.
Yeah. So you'll wonder about that going on, which leads to the next question. Let's say Luke Falk becomes available next week, and I know we're probably getting a Logan Woodside here, who the Titans signed to take Luke Falk's place on the practice squad.
Right.
What happens if Luke Falk becomes available next week?
Well, that's an interesting question because the Dolphins said that one of the reasons that they signed Luke Falk is that he came in to do a pre-draft visit with him, that they liked him during the pre-draft process, which I totally believe. I absolutely see why you would believe that. On a pre-draft visit that the Titans had, one of their 30, Logan Woodside was here, the quarterback from Toledo who was signed to the practice squad, and we actually had a chance to interview him. We never aired it, because Logan Woodside was drafted in the 7th round by Cincinnati. We're not airing the Cincinnati draft picks on our website. So,
Right.
So we have a chance here on the OTP to let you see and hear Logan Woodside from back in, was it March or early April?
March, I'm assuming.
Late March.
No one's helping me from the control room.
Yes.
Oh, it's-
Getting some.
We'll
head
say
shaking.
March-ish.
Yeah, we got some yes, no's,
Spring-ish.
thumbs up, thumbs
From-
down.
It was
Springy time.
before the 2018 draft, and I did this interview, right?
You sure did.
It's me with Logan Woodside in the pre-draft interview, so you get to learn something about this Toledo quarterback's interesting story. Here we go. 10,514 passing yards, 93 touchdowns, 65% completion percentage. You were the All-MAC and the MAC Offensive Player of the Year. Congratulations on a great career. Those are some big numbers. When you hear those numbers out loud, you've got to be like, hey, that's pretty good. That's me.
Yeah, looking back on it now, man, it's pretty incredible what I did. You know, I got to thank my coaches, most importantly my teammates, man. Without them, would be nowhere in the position I'm at today. So, you know, it was great to be up here in Toledo for those 5 years.
All right, so you go to the Combine, and your most important moment at the Combine is when you measured 6'1", right?
Yeah, I was hoping I could be a little over, you know, I was a little over 6'1".
Okay.
I was hoping to be right around 6'2".
But you made money, though. Because
Made
some
a little
people
money.
were saying, is he 5'11", is he 6 feet? Because you can never quite tell on the field.
Yeah.
But it does make a difference to some teams from what you found?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, what I've talked to a lot of people is if you could play quarterback, you could play. You know, it really doesn't matter the size. And, you know, I've gained a little weight, gotten a little bigger too. So, you know, I'm excited. I keep progressing and looking forward to the draft.
David Morris is a guy that you've been working with.
Yeah.
You met him at the Manning Academy.
Yes, sir.
He said something that I was going to quote. He says, Logan plays fast. He says he processes fast. What does that mean?
You know, I think what he means by that is playing fast with your feet. You know, being in the position, being on time to make the throws you need to make, and then processing. You know, I think that's all mentally. You know, it's pre-snap at the line of scrimmage, and then you know as soon as the ball snapped. And I think a lot of that, you know, I've worked really hard at that with my coaches at Toledo and learning our offense like the back of my hand, and then just going out and executing and knowing where my guys are going to be and getting on the ball.
Another noted quarterback guru, Mike Martz, is a guy that you played in the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl back in January. And he said, this guy's going to play in the NFL. I mean, quite a compliment. What do you think you did well that impressed Mike Martz and your quarterback coach, John Kitna?
Coach Kitna, yeah, that was an unbelievable experience for me going out there, you know. Greatest show on turf. Obviously, I wasn't born yet, but, you know, we got to go out and watch some of that, watch some tape. And I think it was just great being around, you know, people that have been around the NFL game for so long. You know, Coach Kitna, who played in the league for over 10 years, and Coach Martz, and just learning their philosophies and, you know, learning an NFL playbook. You know, you only got a couple days to learn it and going in a huddle with brand new guys, and really just shows your leadership. And I think that, you know, I demonstrated that I could pick up offense quickly and make the throws and, you know, be a good leader.
One story that has impressed everybody that's heard it around NFL circles is about your 2015.
Yeah.
So you go to Toledo, you play in 4 games as a freshman in 2013. You're the starter in 2014.
Yeah.
And then Philip Ely comes in from Alabama. He transfers in from Alabama. And you have this massive battle for the job. He wins the job, and so you redshirt. You take that well, and you also use that year to really work on your game. What did you learn from that year that you were redshirting?
Yeah, so actually he came in 2014. So he had actually started in 14. The second game he tore his ACL against Missouri, and I played the rest of that year. And then I actually got hurt that year too, so we both rehab, came back, and they started him again. You know, it was like that point in my life really where, you know, it was disappointing, man. I was heartbroken. But, you know, that was what was best for the team at the time. I understood that, and that's really just when I put my head down, went to work, you know, was in the coaches' offices, was doing everything I could really for Phil at the time to make sure that he was prepared. You know, it was his senior year too, and, you know, I wanted him to go out and have a memorable senior year, and that's what he did, and we won the Boca Raton Bowl that year. And I just took a back seat, you know, still worked my tail off, still pushed him every day, but ultimately that was his team, and, you know, I just tried to, you know, put in where I could and be a part of it.
You're probably not just thrilled for that experience while it's happening, but as you look back on it now, knowing you're going to come into the NFL and have to prove yourself all over again, what do you take from that, and are you thankful for that now?
Absolutely. You know, that was a blessing in disguise, really, because I know that I was nowhere near the player before that year as I was after. The film speaks for itself those next 2 years on the work that I put in and what I learned in that redshirt year and just maturing. You know, going from 20 to 21 to 22, I mean, that's a huge difference, you know, especially in college. And, you know, I just took it. I think, you know, I proved that, you know, I know how to be a backup quarterback, and I know how to prepare a starter. I know how to go down and work on the scout team. Even though I didn't really want to do it at the time, I knew that our defense wasn't going to see a better quarterback, you know. So I just wanted to do whatever I could for the team and help them win games.
Frankfort, Kentucky,
Yep.
capital of Kentucky.
Yep.
What outside of being the capital of Kentucky is Frankfort, Kentucky famous for? The Grand Theater?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Lawrenceburg, Frankfort. It's right
Okay.
there, same area. So Wild Turkey Bourbon.
Okay, well, that's
I mean,
good.
that's what it
I
is.
needed a trivia fact. The other trivia fact, you've been a Titans fan.
Yeah.
I figured being
Yeah.
from there, you'd be a Bengals fan. How were you a Titans fan?
Was a big Vince Young fan when he was at Texas in college, and then, you know, obviously Tennessee's close to home. So when he got here, you know, me and my granddad came up to a game. They played Carolina. Loved it here, man. I've always fell in love with the city of Nashville. Just think, you know, always loved country music, and just the city's got, you know, something about it is just really special, and, you know, just feel like this place is home to me for sure.
Mike, I'm surprised you didn't ask him where the Dairy Queen is
In Frankfort.
in Frankfort.
See, but I don't like Dairy Queen nearly as well as I like Dunkin' Donuts.
I'll tell you what.
I do know where every Dairy Queen is. That is 100%.
In the United States of America,
pretty
I
close.
thought it was just in the Mid-South.
It's pretty
but
close.
I have traveled places, and you've been like, oh, you get off of Route 6 and hang a left, and there's a Dairy
She's
Queen
not
right
kidding.
there. No, I'm 100% serious.
That's scary. Good kid.
Yeah, great kid.
Interesting story. Interesting quarterback. Again, when we say, well, the Titans liked him, you're thinking, yeah, that's what they say about everybody. They're saying, oh,
They're never like, oh, the Titans
oh,
thought that
they
guy was the
thought that
worst.
guy was the worst. But in truth, you can see that they did because they brought him in for a pre-draft visit, and we can see that it was cold that day because I went sweater.
He was wearing a nice bomber jacket.
He was.
I'm kind of into that. Yeah, that was cool.
And now you say he has more of a mohawk
He
look?
has more of a mohawk. For anyone that was watching that, it was a little kind of like mountain of hair. It's now full mohawk, so you could watch it grow.
You know, Jim
then to
used to
now.
have full mohawk. That's why he went to the visors.
The visor, so
I used
it
to
could
have
stick out.
I used to have the Bama bangs, and I had the mullet in the back.
You did?
Yeah, it was
we've
quite
got to
the
get
look.
pictures.
Kind of, yeah, it was not a good look.
All right,
for me.
let's move
But,
along.
but about this now, a trivia question. It's probably the first
Sure.
time the Titans have ever had 3 players from Toledo, although he's not on the active roster, but 3
Correct.
players from Toledo in the building, and 2 guys named Logan on the same team.
To Logan. Oh,
Best
yeah.
football player from Toledo?
Brett Kern would probably argue with you about that.
Best football player from the city of Toledo, though.
I'm
That's,
going Brett Kern.
Well, I mean, he was
Homer.
he was the conference player of the year, I guess, last season.
I'm going
and,
Chuck Webb.
Chuck Webb.
Chuck Webb, great running back at the University of Tennessee from Toledo.
With,
Macomber Whitney
with
High
Reggie
School.
Cobb. Had Cobb Webb going
Reginald
back
Cobb,
then.
the
Yep.
1989 to Cobb Webb. All right, speaking of run games, that's what the Titans, nice segue.
That's nice.
That's what the Titans think the Dolphins are going to try to rely on with this Kenyan Drake. I know Frank Gore's there, and I'm like the world's biggest Frank Gore fan dating back to when he was in high school. Frank Gore is 76 yards away from becoming the 4th all-time leading rusher in the NFL. I think he's going to the Hall of Fame.
I thought you were going to say he's 76 years old.
I
Yeah, he's been
thought
playing
you were
forever.
He's
too.
36 years old.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. And there's been so much attention paid to Frank Gore. And for all I know, Frank Gore has a great game Sunday. But I think all the attention paid to Frank Gore is not giving Kenyan Drake the respect that he deserves. Like this game late in the season, after they traded Jay Ajayi. Remember, Jay Ajayi played in the game against the Titans last year, picked up a 3rd and 7 on a run with like 2:40 to go that essentially ended the game. They traded him to Philadelphia a couple weeks later. Kenyan Drake against New England on December 11th, 25 carries for 114 yards, 5 receptions for 79 yards. So he gained this is a versatile back. He's 6'1", he's 210, he can do it all. I mean, the Titans cannot let Kenyan Drake get started on Sunday. And that's part of the fear about maybe not having Morgan. The Titans are not a massive front on defense. I mean, they've got to play their gaps and really play the run well so that Tannehill in his first game back doesn't have that to rely on.
Yeah, I mean, and he was a good player at Alabama.
Yep.
But incredible how he came on last year. I'm not going to turn this thing into a fantasy football conversation, but I picked Kenyan Drake as kind of a throwaway early last season, and then he turned into one of the most productive backs in the NFL, as you mentioned, catching passes out of the backfield, running the ball well. And now when you look at the fantasy football rankings, he's like one of the top 30 players in the draft, which speaks to his value and what he means to the Dolphins. They've got a good 1-2 punch at running back.
Well, and remember, they've got Kalen Ballage, too, who we saw at the Senior – oh, you didn't go to the Senior Bowl.
Nope.
Because you were at the Pro Bowl.
I sure was.
Yes.
I was in Florida, but it sounds like it was a great trip.
It
and he
really
sounds
was.
like a good guy.
Kalen Ballage is 6'2", 237. He's a big back, a versatile back from Arizona State who never had a chance, much like Kenyan Drake, never had a chance to be the guy. And so that's almost worse for the pro opponents because you got to figure these guys are fresh. They're not all worn out from having carried 900 times in college. It's almost to your advantage. If I'm a high school running back, I think I want to go somewhere with another guy. So because then I can go to the pros where I'm going to share it with somebody, and I'm fresher.
Yeah, and with no Devontae Parker, and certainly they have some other weapons on offense, but you know they're going to want to run the football and try to wear the Titans down, and that's one of the big keys of the game going in. One
of the other guys that I think should make everybody nervous is the guy they drafted at 42nd overall, Mike Gesicki from Penn State, tight end. He ran a 4.54 and posted a 41.5-inch vertical. The guy's an unbelievable athlete. So he's this great high school football player in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. He also wins the state slam dunk contest.
That's kind of cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So when they bring in this guy, number 86, Mike Gesicki, I don't know that he blocks anybody yet. They have another young tight end named Durham Smythe, who's out of Notre Dame. Those two guys can really catch the ball. I mean, they have given Tannehill more weapons with everything he does. And then Amendola's there. You forget that.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, he only caught 11 passes against the Titans in January at New England. Remember that?
No, I'm trying to forget.
11 catches for 112 yards. So they add Amendola, who is the security blanket of all security blankets. Mm-hmm. And then they're better at tight end. They have some blockers. They're better at running back. I mean, the Dolphins should be a lot better on offense. It's going to be a challenge for the Titans' defense.
Yeah, it's going to be a ball game.
I'm giving Armando a third shout out here on this OTP.
This is the Armando Saguro OTP. Yes.
But when I talked to him this week, kind of for a Behind the Enemy Lines segment, he mentioned Gesicki as being the guy to watch out for the most because he said in practices he's been a red zone beast is what he calls him. He mentioned his vertical leap like you did, said he's been unstoppable in practices. He gave Albert Wilson, their receiver.
I didn't even mention him.
That they acquired this offseason. They said Titans, I asked him why the Titans should be concerned. He said, well, a lot of things that you didn't see in the preseason are going to happen in the regular season opener, which includes an Albert Wilson package, and says he's certainly a guy to be.
Coming from Kansas City.
So on top of the run game, some other concerns. You did a preview of some of these past games against the Dolphins at the start of this OTP. Was it Anthony Fasano that lit the Titans up down there one night?
Anthony Fasano did that for years.
He did.
He was the Titan kid, and he played his whole career against the Titans. He'd have been Tony Gonzalez. Antonio Gates. I love Fasano. He was a good dude when he played here. Really good person and a very good NFL tight end. Not a Hall of Fame tight end, but he played like he was going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, the Titans have had some rough trips down there. I mean, let's face it. I mean, 99, Sam Madison, 3 picks. The 2001 Sunday night game was here, and that wasn't really great. And then the Hurricane game, the Aaron Elling game itself, which was, you remember that? They moved the game to Saturday.
Is that when Craig Hendrick got hurt in warm-ups?
Craig Hendrick got hurt in warm-ups, and Aaron Elling had to punt, and then they cut him the next week to bring back Gary Anderson. Just nuts. And then Nick's losing a game down there to a Nick Saban team that wasn't very good. I mean, the Titans have not played great in Miami, but maybe one time.
Yeah, so I brought the Fasano up just because you don't want history to repeat itself with the tight end position. But,
it might as well change now, right?
Yeah, you would like to. And I think the Titans are pretty well equipped with from a defensive standpoint to
too.
maybe cover an athletic tight end like that.
But you got to block
Gotta
Cameron
block.
Wake. You got to block Andre Branch. You got to block William Hayes. You've got to block Robert Quinn. You've got to block Charles Harris. I mean, they got Kiko Alonso, who had the big sack last year. I mean, you got to block the front seven.
Yeah, it's
But-
going to be a challenge.
Yeah, they're young at linebacker. You know, that's one area where they're
Well, Raekwon McMillan is
Yep.
an upgrade. I don't care if he is a second-year player who missed all of last year.
Yep.
He and the Baker kid, the two Ohio State guys, those are really – that gives them more athleticism with Alonso.
Lonzo is the kind of quarterback of that linebacking crew, and you know, it's an area you hope that the Titans can take advantage of, at least their youth.
Their youth, undoubtedly. All right, let's talk about what we have coming up later this afternoon. Tell everybody about Titans Today, Amie Wells.
Well, Titans Today is something new that we have started. The inaugural episode was yesterday. It's a little news update for you. Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays in the 4 o'clock hour. Mike Keith and myself will be giving you a little news break. Get you updated on all the headlines going on with the Tennessee Titans. It's in our brand new studio, so it looks so fresh and so clean.
Outside in the TV studio.
Yeah, right
where
across
we did
the hall.
coaches show and we shot Titans All Access.
Oh, yeah. Lots of things coming out of that new studio, but it's a cool thing that's on TitansOnline.com. It's on our social channels. Definitely check it out.
Later this afternoon.
Well, very well done. I watched yesterday.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thanks, Jim.
now you have to make a wardrobe change for that, because I know you guys were really dressed up yesterday for the initial appearance of Titans Today. Or do you
I don't know, do we?
I am.
Okay.
On Thursdays, I go through like 6 outfits.
Well,
It's
tonight at
just a
6,
thing.
speaking of that, on 104.5 The Zone and Titans Radio, 104.5 The Zone in Nashville and Titans Radio, it is Titans Tonight with Keith Bullock.
He returns.
He returns to this very studio, and we'll take calls, and we'll tell people how do they tweet a question to Keith Bullock.
Hashtag Titans Tonight.
Hashtag Titans Tonight.
I'll be there taking questions.
And that program is sponsored by Yeehaw Brewery. Yeehaw beer is brewed in Tennessee for Titans fans. Pick up Yeehaw at your next tailgate or for your next tailgate. And when the Titans score, let us hear your best Yeehaw.
I brought Yeehaw to my tailgate in Missouri.
Nice.
I took it on the road.
Took it on the road.
It was a hit.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right, so
start the day off with Dunkin' Donuts and end it with the Yeehaw.
That is a really good Thursday.
You know, Jim Wyatt has embraced this whole sponsorship thing.
He's really into it.
I
We
mean-
should start selling ads on his visor,
Oh,
like a
that'd be
NASCAR
great.
driver.
He's like a NASCAR driver.
I think that's the next step.
Uh-huh.
Little
I need
patches.
to make sure I've got all my sponsors down pat. I don't want to give somebody a shout out that not
No, absolutely.
deserving of
Doesn't
one.
You have
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
own. The place where he stands at practice is sponsored. His Coca-Cola, Kroger,
Mound.
yeah. His spot at practice where he said, "That's nice. It's good how you've done that. You've embraced sponsors." Well, this has been great. I hope everybody's had a good time. First,
been great.
video OTP. Thank you for people for tuning in. You'll be able to watch it again.
Yep.
At TitansOnline.com. It will live.
It will be on demand at TitansOnline.com. So if you want to relive the magic again and again, it will be there.
And Amie Wells, what if I'm just a normal podcaster? What if I've been, for the last 6 months, I have enjoyed having the OTP downloaded from my iTunes account? What will happen with this program?
Well, gosh, the same thing is going to happen as it has for the last 6 months. You just log into your iTunes, and if you're a subscriber, it will be right there waiting for you. You can listen to it while you're driving, while you're working out, while you're mowing the lawn. The podcast will still exist exactly as it has, no matter what.
Beautiful.
So subscribe so it just downloads right to your phone. You don't even have to think about it.
Read Jim Wyatt at TitansOnline.com. Follow him on the Twitter at
J White Sports.
Amie Wells. You're able to follow her on Twitter at
TitansAmie, AMIE.
For Amie and Jim, I'm Mike Keith. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time from the OTP.